work with our schools. And again, I realize you guys are already down the track on this, but it's good sort of review. First of all, we will not work with individuals. We will only work with teams. Because we know if a school's going to be successful, a single person is not going to change that school. On that school team, a non-negotiable is an administrator. Your principal, your assistant principal. If your principal or assistant principal is not going to be part of that team, we won't come and work with you. And it breaks our heart. Schools are begging us, please, we're in chaos. It's crazy here. It's crisis. Can you help us? We say not until an administrator steps up. Because we know we could be in that school daily, and we're not going to make changes if that administrator isn't bought in and on board. That administrator doesn't have to be the leader of the team. In fact, they typically are not. They typically recognize and value leadership among their staff. But we know that that's critical to make these changes. Second, we use data to drive everything we do, and I'm going to talk a fair bit about that as we go along. We adopt an instructional focus, meaning it's not simply sufficient to tell kids what to do and post things. We've got to teach and practice, teach and practice, teach and practice. And we teach all school year long, just like we teach math all school year long. In fact, this is the time of year my school teams will say, can't we stop teaching these social skills? It's like, you know, it's March already. And I say, yeah, man, I am sick to death of science as well. Who's with me? No more science, right? Rest of the year, you guys in? Great. And again, they laugh like that. And it's like, well, no, it's like, exactly. Now, one of the mistakes teams will make all the time is they'll continue to teach social skills as if it was an acquisition problem. The other thing that I point out all the time is, look, you guide your other areas by sort of phases of learning, same with social behavior. So they've got it, stop teaching like they don't. Move to fluency, move to maintenance, move to generalization. So we still follow that basic logic of good instruction, but we still need to teach all school year long. We've got to acknowledge mastery. Now, again, here's one of those misrules. People say, oh, PBS is just about bribing kids to behave. It's about handing a bunch of stuff out. And I point out, no, it's not. Right? First of all, bribery by definition means giving money or favor to do something illegal. You're not asking anybody to do anything illegal. Right? I just want you to walk quietly down the hallway. Last I checked, that's not illegal. Second, if you don't want to hand something out, don't. It's about giving contingent feedback. And again, I draw academic parallels all the time. If kids didn't need feedback on their learning, no more homework, no more quizzes, no more tests, no more assessment, no more grading. Never let them know if they've got it right or wrong. And that just teachers are like, no, we've got to check. Why do you have to check? To make sure they're learning. Oh, so we don't have to check to make sure they're learning on the social side, just the academic side. Right? There's all these sort of holes in some of the logic. In fact, one of my favorites was an elementary school years and years ago. Said, can you come help? Said, in my town. I said, sure. You know, in my negotiation usually is, you let us play researcher, we'll come and help you. And they said, sure. And I said, well, can I hang out in your school for a few days just to kind of get a sense of the school? They said, absolutely. So I did an overview real quick at a faculty meeting, half an hour, and I got to this point about giving feedback. And man, they were all over it. This teacher's like, we're not doing that. In fact, at this school, we don't believe in individually recognizing any child for doing something, sort of that's something they should be doing. And I said, okay, I respect that, but help me understand something. What? And I said, well, I've been hanging out in your school for the last couple days, and I've been hearing a lot of, Bob, sit down. Mary, shut up. Why is it okay to individually recognize a child when they mess up, but not when they do it the right way? Oh, it got quiet. And you could just hear the cognitive dissonance in their brains going, oh, wait a minute, something's not right here. Wait a minute. But we're not going to hand anything out. Then don't hand anything out. At minimum, you've got to give contingent feedback so kids know they're mastering the skill. Right? Interestingly enough, this school within about a month was handing more things out than any other school I've ever worked with. Because what they figured out, and what most schools figure out, the tickets and whatnot they give out are not about the kids, it's about the adults. Because the adults acknowledged, this is hard, right? I've got 30 kids doing it the right way, 2 are pushing and shoving, my attention always goes to the 2 pushing and shoving. And I miss the 30. So honestly, when schools adopt the pride tickets or whatever, it's really about adult behavior. It's a prompt and reminder to them, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be looking for kids who are doing it correctly and not just simply incorrectly. It also has to contextually fit developmentally, right? So, I joke, I started my career with adults. I spend a lot of my day now crisscross applesauce at circle time or sitting in very, very little chairs. Right? I do a lot of stuff in preschools, Head Start, and so forth. It's going to look different there than high school, and it should. Years ago, I remember a friend, colleague, a principal at a junior high said, Tim, can you come and talk to the faculty? We really need PBS, but they're kind of pushing back. And I said, sure. So again, did the overview, got to this point, and they also were having nothing to do with it. And this guy's like, that's too elementary. That won't work here. It's like, I can just see me, hey, nice job walking down the hallway. And he's laughing, and everybody's laughing. And I said, well, what could you do? It's too elementary. It doesn't work here. What could you do? Won't fly in a junior high. Fine. What could you do? And then I just stopped talking and stared at him. And it got real uncomfortable. And he finally sort of said, well, my guys like it sometimes, if I go by and high five or just fist bump them, or if I see somebody doing something later, when they're by themselves, say, hey, nice job getting everybody calmed down, perfect. That's the point. You gave feedback on social behavior in a way that fit your context. So this is why it's not a package. This is why it's not a program. Why you can't do what the school just a mile down the road does. It's got to fit, right? This is also in terms of the instruction and the feedback and the curriculum pieces, where we also start bringing in the cultural context and relevancy. And I point out all the time, that makes us nervous as educators to have that conversation. Because I work in a lot of schools where the teaching staff's largely white, middle class, female. That's not the makeup of the school. Large numbers of African American kids, Hispanic kids, and other groups of kids. And it makes us nervous and edgy to talk about culture. And I say, first of all, get over it, right? Just get over it. What I always tell schools is, look, start with outcomes and work backwards. I have the good fortune to work all around the world, and I've yet to meet a culture or group of people that say, oh, we want kids to be disrespectful. We want them to be miserable, have no friends. We want them to be mean and nasty as they possibly can. Never. They all talk about the same things. We want children to be respectful. We want children to be kind. We want children to be safe. But they may demonstrate it in different ways. Start with the outcome and work backwards. Do we all agree kids should be respectful? You betcha. Okay, what does that look like, sound like? Oh, now we've got differences. In the example that I give, I also work a lot in the West, and the example I give, when I was a little kid, man, an adult talked to you, the first thing they did was yell at you. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Oh, sorry, right? Because you're getting yelled at, so you're looking down. Eye contact. But there are a lot of indigenous tribes that is incredibly disrespectful to look somebody in the eye like that. So focus on the outcome and work backwards, right? Bring in those hard, difficult conversations. The other piece, again, is that sort of readiness that we emphasize. Meaning, in the old way, we used to say, okay, in the fall, we're doing 2 days in Universal, then mid-year, we'll do Tier 2, and the end of the year, we'll do Tier 3. And we did a lot of training and quickly overloaded. Just had a conversation yesterday with the coordinator in Washington, and she said, well, we had the stimulus money, and we knew it was going away, so we just did a bunch of training, and we did all the tiers. And now schools are as confused as hell, and they're all ready to just give up. And we said, not surprising. So the other key feature is we do universals. You don't get Tier 2 training until you're ready, meaning you're implementing with fidelity, you're showing outcomes, you're using data on a routine basis. If you're not doing that, we're not going to do Tier 2 training because we're going to set you up for failure. And we did that. We watched schools implode. They're still trying to figure out universals, and now they're trying to run some small group stuff, and then they're trying to connect individuals. It literally implodes. Teachers say, enough. I'm going to meetings 4 days a week. I don't even know what team I'm on anymore. I have no idea what we're supposed to be doing. It's just too much. So another key piece that we have learned is to build in, okay, when you meet these readiness markers, then we come and do Tier 2. When you meet these readiness markers, then we come in and do Tier 3. Now, we always start with universals because we got to build that foundation. And we tell schools, you still, it's not like those kids give you a break. Okay, we're thrilled that you're doing this. Here's what we're going to do for you. We're not going to misbehave all year while you get your universals in place, okay? We'll give you a break. They still show up. They're still there. Schools got to still keep doing what they do, but start applying even the logic of this problem solving to their more intensive kids. One of my favorites, junior high, the principal was part of the team, but man, he was not buying it. You could just tell. Just, okay, my school wants to do this. There's money to do it. Okay, I know I got to come. I'll show up. Well, he became one of our biggest champions because he saw the outcomes. And I remember early on in some of the conversations, I was meeting with their team, and I said, okay, what do you do now in response to challenging behavior? And their biggest sort of response was Saturday school. So if you screwed up to the point where you got in trouble, you had to go to Saturday school. And it's, okay, tell me about Saturday school. Well, we have a teacher. It's like, oh, so you have a certified teacher that runs Saturday? Yep. It's like the same one? No. What we do is we rotate it around. It's part of extra duty. So in a school year, you only have to do Saturday school maybe twice a year. Okay, that sounds fair enough. So you got a teacher there. Yep. Then what happens? Well, we rely on parents to get them there because we don't have buses. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Okay, what if you get a bunch? Well, what happens? Well, most of them sleep. They come in and they take a nap. Sometimes teachers give us extra work, or we have worksheets to do busy work. And it's, okay, do you take a break? Yeah, we take a break. It's like, do you lose? Oh, yeah, about half of them just wander off at break. And I said, so it's really working well for you, right? No, God, no. It hasn't worked well. And I said, well, let me get this straight. You got a certified teacher. You got kids together who basically have exhibited learning errors to the point they need more practice. What a great opportunity to work on the skills that got them sent there. So Saturday school became social skills school. So we knew why kids get sent to Saturday school: conflict resolution, anger management, peer-to-peer problem, accepting criticism from teachers. That's what they started doing. They started working on the skills that got them sent to Saturday school. Significantly reduced the number of kiddos. In fact, I don't think they do Saturday school anymore. They just don't have a need. So, that's an example of how when schools are putting universals in place, they still have those kids and they don't know what to do. I say apply the logic of what do you want them to do instead, teach and practice in all of your responses. So if you've got in-school detention, or you got Saturday school, whatever it is, reshape those. In fact, one of my star schools, their detention room is now called the Self-Management Center. Doesn't that sound much nicer, right? So you go to SMC instead of detention. Still not a fun place to go, but that's exactly what they do. They work on the skills that got them kicked out of class. So we still apply that logic before we move them up. So some of the key features at Universal: one, we come up with some clearly defined expectations. And I'm going to show you an example in that in a second. We start with this. We say, teachers, list your problems. Not your kids, your problems. Oh, disrespect, noncompliance, graffiti and vandalism and all this. That's easy to do. For every one of those, what do you want them to do instead? And then what happens is these things will start clustering around big groups, big ideas. We've got to come up with ways to teach and practice. I've talked about that. Giving feedback. Thinking about our responses to problem behavior. And then that last piece. We want to start getting our families involved from the very beginning. I will tell my teams to maybe seek out a parent volunteer to serve on your team. Now, it's going to be the mom or dad that volunteers for everything, that has honor roll kids and have no problems. But it's still important to have their voice at the table, right? Why? Well, because they see school through their kids' eyes, not through yours. I remember one of my middle school teams, they noticed the data were getting, bad again, a lot of things bubbling up, and they said, okay, well, let's go back and do some more reteaching. Let's really focus in on. And one of the social studies teachers said, parents are going to be really pissed off if we keep, using instruction time to teach social behavior. And we had a parent on the team. She's like, oh, absolutely not. I would love for you to take 5-10 minutes and work on this. She goes, what I'm tired of is my daughter comes home and I said, where's your homework? We don't have any today. It's like, no, I know better. I know you get homework every day. Well, we were supposed to, but so-and-so went off and the teacher was trying to deal with them and nobody could come from the office, so he had to walk him down, and the teacher next door came over and she wasn't sure what the homework was and the bell rang. Okay, she said, that's what I'm tired of. right? I'd much rather have you take that 5-10 minutes. So they can add a voice that again, from the, the perspective of their kids' eyes. Plus, it sort of sets the occasion differently. Think about our parents that we work with. Their kids are in and out of trouble. All they hear is their kids messing up, right? It sets a whole different tone. We're reaching out saying, here's what we hope your child will be able to do. Here's what we're going to do to support him or her to be successful. It, in essence, sets a real different flavor, a real different tone to the connections with our families. The great story I give is, I remember somewhere along my teacher training days, they said, well, make sure you reach out and connect with your parents. And so the very first week, I taught in I said, group home rehabilitation, kind of adult services, and my very first public school teaching was a self-contained class, a BD class in St. Louis. And so the very first week of school, I made a point to call every parent, right? Introduce myself. Hi, I'm Mr. Lewis. I'm your son's teacher. Here's how to get a hold of me. Here's sort of what we're going to work on this year. Really look forward to it. If you have any questions, let me know. I see, your IEP is scheduled at this point. I'll make sure I reach out long before then. And then I had 2 positive things to say about every kid. And I remember catching this mom at work, and I went through the spiel, right? And I said, oh, and Jeff did da-da-da-da-da. It was fantastic. And she starts crying. I mean, not sobbing uncontrollably. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. I've been teaching school for a week and I'm making parents cry. This cannot be good. And I'm like, ma'am, are you okay? And she got herself together. She goes, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. She goes, you know what? My child is 17. You were the first person ever to call from school and tell me my kid did something good. Man, you talk about an ally. That mom would do anything for me. In fact, Jeff came back Monday. What did you say to my mom all weekend long? Mr. Lewis, what did you tell her? So again, it sets a different occasion. Again, especially if we know this, right? We're at that tail end. We failed miserably with that child for a long time. By the time they come to us, we get a lot of pissed off people sometimes, right? They are not an ally. Not always, right? Not always, but again, we're setting that tone. We have to build that core curriculum.